Imagine someone told you that the biggest obstacle standing between you and the life you've always dreamed of isn't your family, your education, your finances, your luck, or even the people around you. Imagine if that obstacle had been with you since the day you were born. It has listened to every thought you've ever had, influenced every important decision you've ever made, and quietly shaped the direction of your entire life without you even realizing it. That obstacle is your own brain. It sounds impossible because we naturally believe our brain exists to help us succeed. After all, it allows us to think, learn, solve problems, and make decisions. So why does it often feel like the very thing that's supposed to help us achieve our goals is the same thing holding us back? Why do you procrastinate even when you know exactly what you should do? Why do you suddenly lose motivation just when an incredible opportunity appears? Why do talented, intelligent people spend years dreaming about success, but never take the actions that could completely change their lives? And why do some people seem to destroy everything just as they're about to succeed? The answer is hidden inside one of the oldest survival systems ever created. Your brain was never designed to make you successful. It was designed to keep you alive. And throughout most of human history, survival had very little to do with becoming successful. To understand this, we have to travel back nearly 50,000 years. Imagine waking up in a world where there are no cities, no hospitals, no supermarkets, no police, and no technology. You belong to a small tribe living in the wilderness. Every sunrise brings uncertainty. Food isn't guaranteed. Dangerous animals hide in the forest. A small injury could become fatal. One wrong decision could cost your life. In that world, survival depends on predictability. The food you've eaten before is safer than trying unknown plants. The path you've walked before is safer than exploring unfamiliar territory. Staying close to your tribe is safer than wandering alone. Generation after generation, evolution rewarded brains that avoided unnecessary risks. The individuals who constantly chased uncertainty often didn't survive long enough to pass on their genes. Slowly, the human brain developed a simple but incredibly powerful rule. If something is familiar, it's probably safe. If something is unfamiliar, treat it as a possible threat. That ancient rule still operates inside your head today. The problem is that the world has changed while your brain has not. You're no longer trying to survive in the wilderness. You're trying to build a business, start a YouTube channel, change careers, become financially free, improve your health, or create a better life. But every one of those goals requires stepping into uncertainty, and uncertainty is exactly what your brain has spent thousands of generations learning to avoid. Deep inside your brain sits a small structure called the amygdala, often described as the brain's alarm system. Its job is incredibly simple. It constantly asks one question: could this be dangerous? Notice what it doesn't ask. It doesn't ask whether this opportunity could make you successful. It doesn't ask whether it could improve your future or make you happier. Its only concern is survival. Whenever you do something unfamiliar, whether it's starting a business, speaking in front of an audience, investing money, asking someone for an opportunity, or uploading your very first YouTube video, your amygdala reacts as if you've stepped into unknown territory. Your heart beats faster, your breathing changes, your palms sweat. Doubts suddenly appear inside your mind. What if I fail? What if people laugh at me? What if I embarrass myself? What if I lose everything? Most people believe these thoughts mean they're not capable of succeeding. But neuroscience suggests something completely different. These thoughts often mean your brain is simply trying to protect you from uncertainty. And uncertainty is not the same thing as danger. This explains one of the biggest mysteries of human behavior: self-sabotage. Self-sabotage. Contrary to popular belief, people don't sabotage themselves because they secretly want to fail. They sabotage themselves because one part of the brain values safety more than success. You suddenly begin overthinking every detail. You delay making a decision. You tell yourself you're not ready. You promise you'll start next week, next month, or next year. Eventually, the opportunity disappears, and you tell yourself you simply missed your chance. But the truth is that your brain quietly protected you from uncertainty, even if that meant protecting you from growth. The same pattern appears everywhere. People remain in careers they hate because predictable misery feels safer than uncertain possibility. They stay in unhealthy relationships because loneliness feels more frightening than familiarity. They postpone their dreams because failure seems less painful than being judged by others. The comfort zone isn't called comfortable because it makes you happy. It's called comfortable because your brain already knows how to survive there. Then there's another invisible force shaping your future every single day: your habits. Every repeated action strengthens specific neural pathways inside your brain. The more often you repeat a behavior, the easier it becomes. The first time you procrastinate, it's a choice. After repeating it hundreds of times, it becomes automatic. The first time you avoid discomfort, your brain notices. The 100th time, it builds an efficient shortcut. Eventually, but these aren't permanent truths. They're simply neurological patterns repeated so many times that your brain mistakes them for identity. Imagine walking across an empty field. The first journey is difficult because there's no path. But if you walk the same route every day for years, a clear road eventually forms. Walking somewhere new suddenly becomes much harder because the old path is easier. Your brain works exactly the same way. Old habits become highways. New habits begin as tiny trails. This is why success feels difficult in the beginning, not because you're incapable of achieving it, but because you're asking your brain to leave the highway it's spent years building and create an entirely new road. And your brain hates wasting energy. Naturally, it tries to pull you back. But here's the extraordinary realization. If repetition created those old pathways, repetition can also create new ones. If your brain learned fear, it can learn courage. If it learned procrastination, it can learn discipline. If it learned limitation, it can learn success. The question is no longer whether your brain is holding you back. The real question is whether you're willing to teach it that success is no longer something to fear, but something to become. Why does your brain stop you from becoming successful? If your brain is capable of learning new skills, building new habits, and adapting to almost any environment, then why do so many people stay trapped in the same life for years? The answer is more surprising than most people imagine. Your brain doesn't only fear failure, it often fears success as well. At first, that sounds ridiculous. Why would anyone fear becoming successful? But if you look closely at human behavior, you'll notice it everywhere. Someone dreams of starting a business for years, but never launches. A talented creator spends months planning videos, but never uploads the first one. A student studies hard, but somehow underperforms when the biggest opportunity arrives. An employee wants a promotion, but never speaks up when the chance appears. These aren't always signs of laziness or lack of ability. Many times, they're signs that the brain is protecting itself from the unknown. Success changes everything. It changes your routine, your responsibilities, your relationships, your identity, and even the expectations people have of you. To your logical mind, those changes represent growth. To your ancient survival system, they represent uncertainty. And uncertainty has always been something the human brain approaches with caution. This is why psychologists often talk about self-sabotage. Or people think self-sabotage means secretly wanting to fail, but that's rarely true. Your brain isn't trying to destroy your future. It's trying to preserve what already feels familiar. Imagine you've lived your entire life believing you're an average person. You repeat thoughts like, I'm not successful, I'm not a leader, or people like me never achieve big things. Over time, those thoughts stop feeling like opinions and start becoming your identity. Then one day, a life-changing opportunity appears. Instead of feeling excited, you feel uncomfortable. Why? Because success no longer threatens your abilities. It threatens your identity. If you've always believed you're unsuccessful, becoming successful creates a conflict inside your mind. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance. The uncomfortable feeling that appears when your actions no longer match the story you've been telling yourself for years. Your brain naturally tries to remove that discomfort, and unfortunately, the easiest way is often by returning to familiar behavior. That's why people procrastinate just before important deadlines, quit promising opportunities, or convince themselves they're not ready. Staying the same feels emotionally easier than becoming someone new. Another invisible force shaping your future is your brain's obsession with certainty. Your brain is constantly predicting what will happen next because prediction saves energy. The more predictable your life becomes, the less effort your brain needs to make. That's why routines eventually feel automatic. You can drive the same road to work without consciously thinking about every turn because your brain has already learned the pattern. But success demands new patterns. It asks you to learn unfamiliar skills, meet unfamiliar people, solve unfamiliar problems, and make unfamiliar decisions. Every one of those experiences requires extra mental effort. Your brain notices this increased workload and immediately searches for the fastest way back to efficiency. That's why your comfort zone feels so attractive. It isn't because life there is extraordinary. It's because your brain has already mastered it. This is also why motivation alone rarely changes lives. Motivation is emotional, and emotions rise and fall. Your brain doesn't permanently change because of one exciting speech, one inspirational video, or one productive day. It changes through repetition. Every action you repeat strengthens specific neural pathways. Every time you choose discipline instead of comfort, you make that pathway slightly stronger. Every time you avoid discomfort, you strengthen avoidance instead. Over weeks, months, and years, these tiny choices become automatic habits. Eventually, your future is shaped less by the decisions you consciously make and more by the habits your brain has quietly automated. Modern neuroscience calls this incredible ability, styled or neuroplasticity, the brain's lifelong capacity to reorganize itself based on repeated experience. For decades, scientists believed the adult brain couldn't change very much. Today, we know the opposite is true. Every repeated thought physically strengthens certain neural connections while allowing unused pathways to weaken. In other words, the brain you're using tomorrow is being built by the decisions you're making today. Every book you read, every difficult conversation you have, every workout you complete, every promise you keep to yourself sends new instructions to your nervous system. Slowly, your identity begins changing from the inside out. But this transformation isn't comfortable. Growth has never been comfortable because your brain naturally interprets unfamiliar experiences as potential threats. This is why the beginning of every meaningful journey feels difficult. The first public speech feels terrifying. The first investment feels risky. The first business feels uncertain. The first video feels awkward. The first attempt always feels harder than the 100th because your brain hasn't yet learned that the new path is safe. Most people mistakenly believe discomfort is evidence they're moving in the wrong direction. In reality, discomfort is often evidence that their brain is building entirely new pathways. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. At first, every movement demands conscious attention. You lose balance, make mistakes, and fall repeatedly. But eventually, something remarkable happens. What once required enormous effort becomes effortless. The bicycle didn't change. You did. Your brain built a new pathway strong enough to make balance automatic. Success follows the same principle. The skills that seem impossible today become ordinary tomorrow if you repeat them long enough. The tragedy is that most people quit before their brain has enough evidence to believe the new identity is real. They mistake the discomfort of growth for proof that they aren't capable, when in reality it's proof that transformation has already begun. And that raises one final question. If your brain can be rewired, if fear can become confidence, if old identities can be replaced by new ones, then what separates the people who eventually succeed from those who spend their lives trapped inside the same invisible patterns? The answer lies in one simple realization that has the power to change everything, and that's exactly where our journey ends in the final chapter.